Welcome, friends. Welcome to today's Reconsider It live stream. Best live stream you're gonna see all day. And here on this live stream, you are going to get a very nice hour of some RC 505 beat making, hanging out, and technical detail tutorial content. Man, it's going to be really good. My regulars know what it is. If you are new to the Reconsider It live stream, welcome. You made the right decision joining us. At this time, we are hanging out. We are hanging out in a warm-up phase, just getting the blood flowing. And here in this warm-up phase, we are chilling out to this beat that I half began before the stream began. We have just the foundation of a beat here because on this stream, I'm going to be building it up more, and I'm just going to be talking about like what are the buttons I'm pushing and what I'm doing. There will likely be other little tangents about the loopers and other miscellaneous stuff, like my experiences using the loopers and when I got them, and it's going to be a 505-centric stream today. And here on this warm-up phase that we are in together at this time, I am going to celebrate. I'm going to celebrate Thank you for being here. Whether you are here live with us in the chat, or you are here live with us but you are not in the chat, or you are joining us after the stream watching on replay. However it is that you are joining us, thank you for being here. I'm going to celebrate you at this time in this way. I have got my drink. I am going to count up to 3. I am going to clink the screen, and you are invited to join the rest of us as we clink along and celebrate our togetherfulness. And it all begins, my friends. It, of course, begins with 1. Yes, the count up has begun. Oh man, it's such a steady, smooth feeling of a count up at this time. 2. Man, that is really good. It's a nice escalation. Because you know where all this count up is going, my friends. If it was 1 and then 2, then of course right now you have got 3. Clink. Cheers, my friends. good. There's like this deep relaxation and goodness. I feel it in my body. Please like this video. I see right now in the chat we have got Michael Me saying hello from Australia. Hello. Welcome. Welcome to Australia. I enjoyed some time I spent in Australia. I spent a fair amount of time in Sydney, a Sydney-centric region. That was a good time. That's like, I reflect back on my life. That was like a highlight period. That was a really good time. I like that. So welcome. Welcome to Australia. You are bringing me a lot of very fond memories of experiences. And as we begin this very exciting 505 beatmaking stream, my friends, this is the kind of stream I'm going to put up my stream menu. These are all my 4 flavors of stream that I do. We're doing the upper right corner, the 505 beatmaking. I'm just going to be building up a beat right now, talking about technical details. Pressing this button, it does this, it does that. So how did I build what I already have? When it comes to my percussion, it's mostly the usual stuff. I have basically 1 or 2 different sets of settings in my lower 505 for how I do percussion. My regulars know that everything you're hearing is all vocals. All this beat, every part of it, the percussion, all this, bass line and all these harmonics and everything, it's all vocals. And so how did I get the vocals to sound like this? Because I do not have a lot of, if you ever see modern beatboxers, the stuff they can do a cappella, that's really impressive. It's not me. I just make really bad sounds into the microphone, and my loopers make it sound nice because they have sound effects. So how did I do this kick? This kick was an EQ. EQ with a boosted, what do they call it on here? Let's see. Low. It's called low on the looper. Boosted low and a slightly boosted high mid. And then that is passed into a lo-fi. So that's why it has that sort of like grainy sound to it. Then I bring in the, I think, what did I do next? Usually I do hi-hats next. Let's do this. So what's this one? This is that same EQ with the high, boosted low end. But it's also got a reverb on it. A very, very minor, slight reverb. Yeah, it's barely even on. So it's mostly just a plain EQ on those hi-hats there. Then we have this clap snare layer, whatever you call that. That layer. That's the same EQ and the same reverb as the shaker hi-hat layer. So these are These are both the same thing. Although on the clap layer, I added some more reverb. It's much more clear there. So that's it. That's all I got in the percussion. I like to tell my story of how when I had one looper, just the bottom one here. This is the Mark 1, the 505 Mark 1. I had to conserve my 5 tracks. I had one of them had to be a bass layer, one of them had to be some kind of melody if I'm doing that, and so on. So I was very restricted with my percussion, and I generally put it all on one track. And it was some traditional, just like. It was just like doing a single beat. But when I got this second looper, man, this bottom one is old, and it's like this bottom button down here is busted. There it is. The volume fader is busted. I'm thinking about getting another one of these Mark IIs. But who knows when that would, if at all, happen. The bass line, going up to the top one. So the top looper is the Mark II, which is the more advanced version. This one came out, I think it was 2020 when it came out during the pandemic. It was like June or something like that during the pandemic. So 2020, I think, is when this top one came out. The bottom one, I'm not sure when it came out. I got mine in like 2017. In any case, the top one is just like, version 2.0. That's all it really is. And it's way more advanced. It's got so much more. I always like to say it's not like they did an upgrade from the original looper and do an upgrade to this new one. That's not what it was. It was like they did 5, 7 upgrades at once. The top looper lets you put a tuner. So even though, as I say, I'm not a good singer, I put some like horrible butchered version of a melody. I sing some terrible butchered version of a melody. And this just sort of like auto-tunes it to sound like it's on tune. So it's the looper doing that, not me. I'm not a good singer. And the question is, how did I build these? I already told you how I built the drums. How did I build these other things? The bass is each instrument. So even though this sounds like a bass, it's really me just being like, doo. You can sometimes hear my voice cracking if you listen carefully. It's character. There's a little crack in there. Sometimes it's not a crack, and it sounds like it, but it's like a very tight melody, and it's intentional. I realize it's not always clear. Anyway, this bass line. Each of these instruments is made out of 4 sound effects layered on top, or not layered, but stacked. So what are the sound effects that created this bass sound? So it starts with a guitar to bass, which is the thing that just takes a tone and drops it and, mutes it and whatever it does. I don't know exactly what it does. It's just an output effect. Guitar to bass starts there. That one I passed into a sustainer, which is mostly just a volume boost, but a little more than that. Then from there, I passed it into the electric, which is the tuner. Usually, I put the tuner second, so I get the core, like, essential, I guess, sound modification or sound element or sound modulation to it. And then I put the tuner right on top of it, usually. But it looks like this is one of my oldest palettes. I have 36 different palettes of sound effects. And this is one of my oldest ones. So it looks like this came from before I adopted that convention. In any case, guitar to bass. This is for how did I build this bass sound? guitar to bass into a sustainer, into the electric, which is the tuner, and then passed into just a plain vanilla delay. You can hear a little bit of delay on this. I guess I should have here. Listen. So that's the bass. Bass is usually pretty simple. I'm still not totally happy with the way my basses are. So I still got to mess with something about them on a fundamental level. And I'm not sure exactly what. I see right now I'm getting caught up on the chat, and I see that Thomas is with us. How about this other sound? How did I make this one? This one is me doing some kind of like, well, not exactly, probably not that, but I do falsetto, like awful singing like that for these. For this one though, I forget exactly. Was it something like that? Something like that. So again, I'm not a good singer. It's the looper that makes it sound this way. And you should feel confident if you're wondering whether you could make music this way. The answer is yes, you can. So how did I build this one? What's this one made out of? This, like, I don't even know how you characterize this. High, like, it's not exactly a falsetto. This is built out of a distortion. That's the 505 sound effect I'm using. How did I stack this instrument? How did I stack sound effects to create or build this instrument? Distortion set to the fuzz type. I think that's what Thomas is talking about with a granular voice. Distortion set to fuzz. Oh yeah, this was definitely an old palette. That then is fed into a tremolo. I think is how. Yeah, it is. It's set to a half note in terms of its period, which means it repeats only. Well, I don't know. What would you say? Once every measure. Maybe twice. I'm not sure how to. Let's say twice. It occurs twice. Distortion passed into a tremolo, then passed into electric, which is the tuner, then passed into a reverse reverb, and you can hear that. You can already hear that in there. So that's it. That's how I built those first pieces. That's everything that I have so far. You are now in the loop. Oh man, I said in the loop. You are in the loop. Oh, by the way, for my musician friends who like to jam along, this one is tuned to the key of A. What? The beats per minute, according to my looper, is 40.9. Wow. I'm not sure what makes the looper decide how long a measure is. In any case, we got all the pieces, my friends, and this is just the foundation of the beat. So now the next step is we're going to have to go and grab the other two instruments that I've built for this palette. I know I'm throwing all these vocabulary words at you, as if you know exactly what I mean by each one of them. I have 2 more instruments that I've made within this configuration setting, which I call a palette of sound effects. This one has this like granular, pitched up voice, and also this bass. That's what's in this palette. What else is in this palette? I'm gonna go over here. I can have up to 4 instruments in a single palette. Right now I see that your man, has joined us. So let's see, what else? Oh, I got this one. I see one thing I'm going to use. That's good. Changing a lot of stuff on the fly here. Changing the length of the loop. I may as well tell you, that's what the 505 beat making is. I'm telling you what the buttons do and such. So I was telling you earlier, because of the beats per minute, is marked as 40.9. Is that right? Yeah, 40.9. And I made a comment, I'm like, yeah, you know, I don't know what makes it, you know, determine how long a measure is. When I recorded this beat, like just this, generally I start with the kick drum. That's it right there. That's it, that's 2. That seems to me like a pretty, it usually marks that as 2 bars or measures. But this one I marked as 1. I was like, what? So that's one thing I have to be ready to do on the fly. If I do my kick drum and then I start building other stuff, I got to make sure I know what the length of the measures is. It is totally a thing if you watch some of my old videos. And when I say old, I mean from the past year. You watch some of my videos from the past year or so. You'll see me sometimes record a bass line or a melody or a lead or something. You'll see me record one of those. And if you watch my body language carefully or my facial expressions, you can sometimes catch me like thinking it's done. Like, all right, that's the full length of the phrase. And I like pull away and I'm like almost ready to do something else. But then I look over and I see that it's still recording. And then I'm like, and I run over. I mean, not run over. I'm still physically in the same position. Maybe I should get one of those foot mats. I hear those are good. My Logify says, I've been here the whole time. I was just eating dinner earlier. That's cool. Glad to have you the whole time. I find that seems to be I don't know, let me say a primary. Can you say such a thing? A foremost, maybe? Because primary indicates singular. But foremost, you can have, I don't know, multiple foremen? I don't know. Among the top consumption methods, this is what I'm trying to get at. Among the top consumption methods, maybe number 1, but I'm not sure if it's number 1, for people consuming my live stream content, is just like part of a background thing while they're doing something else, like eating dinner, or like exercising, or maybe they're going for a walk, or maybe you're at the store right now somebody listening to this is like at the grocery store reaching for something on the shelf and putting it into their basket. That's a very welcome form of being with us. When we cheers, I'm cheersing to you as well. Shout out to my people in the year 4508. Thank you for being with us. In any case, my friends, I need to add some more to this beat. And I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do this one. Yeah. All right, this is one of the things that I like a lot, and I probably would overdo if I didn't keep it in check. There are some things in the loopers that are so cool, and I just love playing with them so much. But I can't do them in every single solitary song. So I have to have some self-restraint. This is one of those things. It's like, this is fun. It's not one of my top ones that I need self-restraint for. There are some that it's like, oh man, I gotta hold back from doing it every time. Can I do it on this one? So I like that effect too, that like stutter effect. Normally it goes a lot faster, but because of the way it's counting the measure here, you know, the math makes it become more sparse. So this effect is less exciting. That was a fun tongue twister. But that's this output effect. Separate from that, we got what are the input effects on this next instrument that I'll be using. So this next one, as I say, that's one of the things I like a lot, and I try not to overdo it. And that is the low pass filter. Given the like wow 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 wow, that type of effect. This one has one of those. This one's gonna be built out of a synth. Going back to the 505 details, if you're a 505 user or you're just curious and you like technical details, that's the nature of this stream, all the details. So this sound effect that I'm about to use right now is built out of a synth, which I usually characterize in my mind as like a brass or a horn type of a sound, but obviously a synthesizer, but it plays the role of a brass or a horn usually, at least in my use of it. Then that is passed into a reverb, an ordinary plain vanilla reverb, and then that is passed into the electric, which is the tuner, and then all of that finally is passed into the low pass filter, which is the thing I love, and I'm good about not overdoing that one. But let's overdo it right now. I'm going to go off of the speaking mic, and I'm going to transform it magically into the looper stuff. Let's do it. there you have it. There's that one. There's that new sound. I see right now that the bird is now with us. Yes. I see my Logify says, hey, we are not 505 owners. We are the old school tambourine players. That's nice. Hey, you could even use the tambourine as a part of your looping. For anyone who's getting your 505 ready, or you're already playing your 505 and you're just looking for different perspective on another artist uses them. So we got this new sound that I just added in, which I'm not playing right now, but will in a second. This is the one that was built out of a synth, passed into a reverb, passed into the electric, the tuner, and then passed into the low pass filter, this sound. So that's that one. By the way, another technical detail that might not be obvious is that on the top looper, the length of this red, I guess, disappearing sequence of buttons, of red line here that, you know, slowly snakes clockwise. That indicates how long that particular loop is on the top looper. On the bottom one, this is just like a direct count. It doesn't, like, if there are different, if the different loops are of different lengths on the bottom looper, it does not reflect that in how slowly this snakes around. This just measures one measure, one bar. So I find the one on the top looper to be more helpful. Another argument for getting a second Mark II. As I talk about it here in the live stream, I am like persuading myself. I'm persuading myself to get another one of the Mark IIs, because it's one of the things about the bottom looper for me is that this particular part here, the leftmost loop, its volume fader is a little busted. See how it's all the way down, but you can still hear the kick drum? It's all the way down, but you can still hear it. That totally messes with the impact of some of what I'm doing when I'm flipping the volume faders on and off. It's supposed to be this like dramatic end, but then you still hear it playing. I'm like, ugh. And to get it repaired is like $200. It would probably be at least, I don't know, I don't even want to say an amount, but probably $200. And this Mark I down here, they don't make anymore. They stopped making them back in 2020 when the Mark II came out. So to even get the right parts, I mean, maybe you don't even need to get new parts. Maybe it just needs a little adjustment. Like maybe there's something in there that's bent. That's my theory. Because the way, I mean, I still kind of play like this if you watch my hands closely, but the way I used to play is I would like, you know, kind of hold on to this as I'm like, you know, moving around. And when I play a live show, you know, I'd be like really moving. So I think I may have just bent something in here. In any case, to take it in is $200. to get a new one of these is more, but it would also be brand new, so not have any wear and tear on it. And it would also have all the new features that the new one, the top one has. It would really enhance what I could do with the percussion versus the melodic layers. Again, I'm talking myself into it here. Because on this lowest, I mean, leftmost is what I mean to say. On this leftmost loop in the bottom layer, the bottom looper rather, not only is the volume fader kind of busted, but also this big green button here, because that's what you press to start and stop it. And this is the one that I start and stop the most. That's the kick drum layer. So it's like, it's really worn. I could shift everything down, I suppose. There would be a lot of muscle memory translation I would need to do. I guess that might be doable. Maybe I should explore that. But I'm still talking myself into getting the top looper again. So at this point, my friends, we have got a pretty full-ish beat. And you have heard all sorts of details about all the different layers and everything. You've also heard some miscellaneous commentary about whatever else I was talking about. Miscellaneous tangents here or there. And there's still one more instrument and one more layer here. This final layer, what is it? Okay. This one that I'm going to use right now, that you haven't heard yet, and I tested it before the stream, but I think I have a vague idea what it sounds like. It's built out of a synth, which is that one that I characterize as a brass or a horn type of roll. It plays that kind of roll. The synth, and then passed into an EQ. What is anything special in the EQ? The EQ has the high turned down a lot, and the low is turned down a little bit. And then that's passed into a electric, which is the tuner, and then that's passed into a tape echo, which is always a good use of a output effects slot. So let's see, my friends. Let's see what this one sounds like and how I'm going to make it integrated into the rest of the beat. That's that new sound. Right now I see that Sonic 5 has joined us. Yes. Sonic 5 has a nice story he's sharing in the chat right now. He says, I was in Guitar Center and I was staring at a Boss 505 and was so tempted to try one. You should. I'm thinking about getting a second one. I'm sitting here convincing myself over the course of the past 20 minutes. I'm like, you know, there's all these advantages, and this would be a good idea, actually, and this would enhance that. And the other thing I was getting at is, I think I did say this, actually, is that in order to get the bottom one repaired, it would cost, you know, something approaching half. Maybe. I don't know exactly what the cost would be, but probably something approaching half of the cost of getting a new Mark II. So I don't know. I'm thinking maybe it's time to retire the Mark I that I have down here on the bottom. Retire the Mark I and get a second Mark II, and then have a Mark II on the bottom here for percussion, and the percussion will be greatly enhanced. There'll be at least a couple of effects that I know I would use that I can't use right now because they're not on the Mark I. They're only on the Mark II. In any case, this new instrument here, or this new loop, this is the one that was built out of that last configuration that I was describing. Built out of the synth, passed into the EQ, where the EQ has a lot of the high-end muted down and some of the low-end muted down a little bit too. Synth EQ, then passed into electric, which is the tuner, then passed into a tape EQ, tape echo. And you can hear the echo well. By the way, you often see me in many of the beats that I do. You see me taking this thing on and off down on the bottom here. This is more technical details for you because that's the point of this particular stream flavor. This 505 beat making is all about the technical details of the loopers. Anyway, you see me often turning this on the bottom on and off. This third thing down here, this third button. This is where I configure my reverb. If it's not reverb, then I usually put a delay of some kind. There's a granular delay, there's just an ordinary delay. But you often see me messing with this, turning this off, okay, or I turn it back on, then you see me going like this. That's just turning reverb on the drums. Similarly, on the top looper, that's also the third loop, or the third light, rather. So this one also is generally a reverb or a delay. The Mark II has a lot of different kinds of delays and reverbs that the Mark I does not have. Maybe I should get a second Mark II. That's about the extent of my singing skills. So this is good. This is a pretty rich beat, I think. If you are jamming along with us musically, this one is tuned to the key of A, and the beats per minute is 40.9. Or probably more realistically, 81.8. It's Pretty slow. 81.8 slow. This is not 40.9 slow. The low pass filter, yeah. I am getting caught up on the chat here. There's some nice chatting going on. Sonic Vibe had more that says, you got that 808s and Heartbreaks. 808s and Heartbreaks album vibe with this. Thank you. I accept this. I accept it with a smile. Sonic Vibe also says, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a new version of the loop station in the next few years just based on its popularity. If they did, oh man, I have a lot of features that I would hope they make. There's a couple Facebook groups that are dedicated to the Mark II, like specifically just the RC505 Mark II. And I see there's some commentary from My Logify about Boss and Roland being the same thing. Which one is the parent company? Is Roland the parent company and Boss is just the type of, device, and Roland does other things also besides just Boss? Is that the structure? I don't know. But yeah, Roland and Boss effectively are the same thing for like who makes these. It's Roland or Boss. Whatever. In any case, yeah, if they do make if they make a Mark III, oh my goodness, I get excited because there's some things I know that they would do, or they probably would do. For example, there was one thing that they removed when they went from the Mark I to the Mark II, because they added a lot. It may not be obvious from the camera what you see, but there's a lot more buttons on the top one, and they're more complex. There's a lot more flexibility and programmability. So it's just a more complicated looper, just period. It's just a more complicated looper at the end. And in the process of adding so many awesome new features, which they should have. So Boss really blessed us with a bunch of awesome features. But they also wanted to they wanted to minimize the amount of complexity. They don't want to give you something with literally 40 buttons. Okay, that's enough, So they try to minimize, which is another good engineering design move. So they're doing everything right. And at the same time, one thing that was why did you do that? You should have run this by some users first. Why did you do that? They took away the knob for the volume of input. So you can't dynamically just be take this knob here. Watch, I'm just going to say, but I'm going to do the volume knob. See, that's another reason this one is busted. The volume knob on this crackles like that. But anyway, you heard it's the volume input, right? There is no button on the top for the volume input. And everybody who was an existing user, everybody who was already a Mark I user, when they got the Mark II, they're like, wait, what? There's no... That was the most... Why on earth did you do it move? Now, I know why they did it. The reason is they added more they added more capacity for input. So on the bottom one here, there's only 2 ways you can plug something in. There is the microphone way, and then there is the there's the panned quarter note jacks. So there's only 2 inputs effectively. So they give you 2 buttons or 2 knobs to dial, which is really convenient. But when they came out with the Mark II, there's a lot of inputs. There's 2 microphones, so like you could in principle have 2 beatboxers with 2 different mics recording at the same time and control their volume levels differently, and other aspects of the input could be applied differently. I think I don't want to oversell that part, but the other parts, their volumes differently and so on. And they also give you more inputs. They give you 2 panned line ins, so there's 4 inputs effectively. They didn't want to put 4 dials, which is reasonable, but I think they need to bring, here's where the conversation is going. If they are doing a Mark III ever, I'm not going to hold my breath for that, but it would be cool if so. If they are going to do a Mark III, then they have to bring back like 1 dynamic, dedicated dial for the input. Because look at all this empty real estate right here. They could have put a dial right here, just one of these small dials. Instead, they gave you these 4 programmable dials, which are awesome. I never imagined something as flexible as that. It's really awesome enhancement. And I put one of them for me as the microphone level so that I can do this dynamically if I need to. But it would also be cool if I could use this programmable thing for some other rare function that I want to use more dynamically and, integrate into my artistry and all this while they give me an input button. That seems like a reasonable request. And I imagine most users who have done the path like I have of Mark I, then you got a Mark II. I imagine most of us are in agreement on that particular detail. Bring back the volume dial, the input volume dial. And even if you only give me 1 and I have to choose whether it's going to be mic 1 or mic 2 or instrument 1 or instrument 2, compromise accepted. I see there's a lot of clarification going on in the chat from Sonic Vibe and my Logify, which almost rhyme. And almost rhymes with them. My Logify and Sonic Vibe, it almost rhymes. And the cost is high when boss is nigh. I see there's a clarification about Roland indeed. I was reasoning correctly, maybe. I also might have just coincidentally been right, but for the wrong reasons. That's a thing, right? Not many people talk about that topic, but there's this phenomenon where a person, like a hypothetical person, yes, this happens to everybody, including me, including you, where a person, has a theory about something, a theory about the world, about the universe, about life. They think this is happening because of whatever reason. They have their own belief system. It is possible for their belief system, for their framing system, it is 100% possible for that to be like a really good system with accurate predictions and is helpful, so it can get them to get the right answer in certain cases for the right reasons. So this thought process that a person has indeed can get them to the right place for the right reasons, and they would do it again repeatedly because they are doing it for the right reasons and they are reasoning correctly. That's true. And that's frankly true for most people most of the time. The way you think about stuff is pretty accurate, close enough You're doing pretty good most of the time in most areas. But it's also possible that you can accidentally get the right results or the best results, but not for the right reasons. In other words, you're wrong. You don't understand correctly. And you can just happen to coincide with what's right. And what would be a repeatable process that would bring you success again in the future. But no, you don't have that internal process that'll bring you success in the future. You misunderstand and you just coincidentally got the right answer. So when that happens, as it does happen to all of us, that's a normal daily phenomenon. When that happens, when you wind up with the right decision, but you didn't reason correctly to get there. It feels the same. Being right for the right reasons feels the same as being right for the wrong reasons. Feels the same. And here's what that means. Here's why I'm talking about it. It means that people in general, by default, on autopilot, people don't learn from that. They don't learn the difference. So only through some kind of intentional effort, it seems. Maybe this is too broad of a generalization. But it seems that only through some form of intentional effort is it possible to have something unprecedented. Sticking with the technical details on the 505, most of what you see me doing here is just turning the volume faders on and off. There's not much that I'm doing dynamically. You see me doing a little bit of the reverb on the percussion, as I described earlier. A little bit of that. Logify says he likes Boss because they care about the durability of their products, which is rare. Yeah, I guess the Mark I, given that I use it a lot, and you know what else it is? This occurred to me. Is that I didn't always have a padded carrying case for the looper back in the day. Back in the, youthful, ignorant days, in the various ways that I transported my looper to and from shows, to and from open mics. It was not with a padded, hard waterproof case like I have now. So there's also some damage in there. And despite all that, this is 7 or 8 years later that I've been using it on a very regular basis, including the past year, which has been even more of a regular basis. So yeah, I guess I would agree. 7 or 8 years of very frequent use, and it's still operating pretty well. And only the one layer that I use most heavily, including with the most force, because that's the one that I'm timing. The other ones I'm not timing. Everything else just follows the timing of the first one. So I'm usually very careful about making sure I hit it with the right timing. And only that one is really showing a little bit of wear. So yeah, durability, that's good. I'm glad, my Logify, that you point that out, especially if you've had that experience and you are testifying. Sonic Vibe says, how long have you worked with loopers? In terms of just like, if you're talking purely about a piece of hardware, like the loop station, which I think is what you're asking, then I got the bottom one here. I believe it was either 2017 or late 2016. So I just say 2017 to be safe. So let's say 2017, I got the bottom looper. That's the Mark I. And I was using that. I mean, I was making songs literally the day I got it, and like every single day for, I don't know how long, couple weeks maybe, question mark. So I was using it very heavily from the start and learning all the buttons and what could I do, and oh, look at that, I can make my own configurations and things. I never told this story before, but the way that I save configurations in my loopers has changed philosophically. Like what am I saving into a given looper when I save a configuration, what I call a palette. When I save a palette, what exactly am I saving? It used to be, back in 2017, when I first got the looper, I got it primarily to be able to perform live, because I'm a rapper. If you didn't know that about me, I rap. I'm starting to release more raps again. I'm releasing... Oh man, there's so many tangents I could go off on. I want to keep focused here. Oh, I forgot all of them already. That's a bummer. What was I talking about? Looper configurations. When I first got my Mark I, back in 2017, I got it so that I could perform live with it, so that I could remix myself on the fly. Because I always loved beatboxing, and I always wanted to get a looper. Eventually, I played enough shows with Carnage the Executioner. If you don't know who Carnage the Executioner is, he's awesome. He is the person who made me feel like it's possible to do looper stuff. He has the dopest live show ever. Dopest live show I've ever seen. Is that going too far? Am I exaggerating too much? Is this hyperbole? I don't know. I will go to his show every chance I get. And I used to play shows with him. I would open for him when he toured around in my area. Because we're close-ish. We're, more than we're a few hours apart. So he would often tour and be in my area, and I would open for him. Anyway, because that's what his show is. His show is all beatboxing and looper stuff. And I was just so impressed with him, and I'm like, all right, I guess he could do it. Like, I always wanted to do beatboxing and loopers and stuff, but because I can't sing, and my beatboxing is just very, maybe, if I might toot my horn a bit, my beatboxing is maybe a little better than average. My acapella beatboxing, a little better than average. I've been doing it for like, I don't know, 30, 35 years or something, I don't know. But it's always been a hobby level thing, my beatboxing, my acapella beatboxing. So I never thought to do anything with it. I can't make all these awesome sounds that many beatboxers can. But then again, Carnage. And I learned about the 505 and how it makes different sound effects. And I was like, oh, I gotta do it. That was 2017. And at that time, again, I was making remixes of myself when I played live shows. So what I saved was like a setup for a specific song. It'd be like, all right, here in saving slot number 1, here's for my song called blah, whatever. And then saving slot number 2, song number whatever. That's not how I do things now. I don't even really perform live anymore. I have performed maybe like once in the past year, and it was with Carnage. That was last year. So yeah, I don't really go play live shows anymore. So I don't need to save those configurations. What I save now is just possible palettes of sound effects to improvise with. So there really are just palettes in that sense. So that's one other technical detail. It's something to think about, especially if you're, considering getting a 505. There's so much you could do with it. It blows my mind, really. I only do the smallest little fraction. So what exactly are you exploring? What's relevant to save? What's relevant to keep versus treat as an experiment? I see right now that Sonic Vibe says, oh yeah, you rap. We should do some kind of collab. I do like rapping. Have you checked out my raps? Are you familiar with them? You should check out my raps and let me know what you think. There's a playlist on my YouTube page. It's also on the front, whatever you call it, the front page of my YouTube channel, where there's featured playlists. One of them is rap. So check that out. Check out my rap playlist. ... question mark. I'm also doing a rap right now. I'm doing a rap right now on a beat that I saved from, which one? Thursday. So it was 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I made a tinkering stream, tinkering in the studio stream, and I saved the beats off, and I was listening back to the beats that I saved. I picked one of them, and I'm making a little song out of it now, and there's going to be rap. So it has like, you'd probably count this as maybe 8 bars of rap. So that's coming. I'm probably going to release that today or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow, but maybe today. I don't know. So you can even check that out too. That'll be the freshest rap. I released a rap earlier this week as well, called, the one I just released a couple days ago is called Grins in the Wind. Grins in the Wind. That one I would say is pretty experimental, pretty jagged. Somebody described my beats and my rhythms. He described them as jagged. I was like, that's pretty good. I am with that description. My Logify says, I'm going to check out that rap playlist. Good. You're probably going to like it. And by probably, I'm just meaning to give you a little bit of room to have the smallest little slight, minor, infinitesimal probability that you say anything short of, this is the most amazing thing I've ever heard in my life. I've never heard anything like this. This is so eye-opening and incredible. This is healing me in very deep ways that others always told me were impossible. Wow, this is amazing and incredible. That's what you're going to say about my raps. Sonic Vibe has some suggestions about a device called 5 Moons. It's some kind of looper, is that what it is? Imagine if you could loop 5 tracks and bounce them to 1 and do that infinitely. And I will check the raps on the play. Oh, cool, you're gonna check the rap. Yeah, nice, you're gonna like the raps. Regarding having 5 tracks and bouncing down to 1, you can actually do that on the Mark II. The Mark I does not have that feature, but the Mark II allows you to take any given track and bounce it down to, you know, a different one. And there are a lot of artists who use the Mark II, and they use that as a, like a core part of their style on how they build their beats. And you'll see that if you watch carefully. So to be clear, I don't use it in my style. I think about it sometimes, and I probably could, and I'd probably have a whole new like arsenal if I did. And maybe I'm talking myself into it, maybe I should. But anyway, if you watch some other Mark II artists, you see them, you know, record something on one layer, and then record something on another layer, and then you might see them press these buttons, like these 2 down here, and a couple others nearby, and then one of them's gone, but you still hear both of them. That's because they bounced them down. And I saw a video once of somebody who like really exaggerated it, and he did all 5 collapse down to 1, and then all 4, you know, all of that. I might be exaggerating all of that. I don't know if he did all the way down to 2, but some people do that as a part of their style. So it can be done on the Mark II, which is pretty dope. Nonetheless, we have this thing called 5 Moons. I'm not aware of much competition for the Mark II, or for the, you know, for the Boss 505. There used to be another one. There used to be another looper that was like a pretty strong competitor, but they discontinued it. They stopped making it. I don't know how many years ago. I forget what it was called, but it's the one that Reggie Watts used to use. And I'm sure he still uses his. But they stopped making it. I was thinking about getting one, just for the sake of broadening my vocabulary and, you know, learning a different piece of hardware. That was the only other one I knew of that makes the sounds. That was the part, that was the final trigger for me. When I learned that this bottom looper, that it makes a bass line as an input effect, that was it. That was the selling point. I said, okay, I have to get it. That was the missing piece. Man, I'm really convincing myself into getting another Mark II. What do you think the probability is? I'm going to go look these up later and see how much they cost these days. Oh, man. Sonic Vibe says, I think you're talking about the 5 Moons. That he says, most devices limit you in terms of how much can be bounced around. And I'm inferring that the 5 Moons gives you more space for that there's not such a limitation. Because earlier you said that you could do it infinitely. So I guess, yeah, I've not heard of this 5 Moons. That's cool though. If it has some kind of looping capacity, that might be... Because, you know, I wonder how much... Is it too much to have 2 of the same device? That's kind of what I'm wondering. Should I get something else instead of another Mark II? Like maybe this 5 Moons device, if it's able to meet my needs in a similar but similar but distinct way. Maybe that would add more to my show, add more to the whole like setup. If I got a different device, that brings totally different kinds of sounds. Does this 5 Moons thing make sounds? Like I'm not making this. I don't sound like that. That's because the looper makes it sound like that. Does the 5 Moons also do that? Can I sing poorly like but I make it sound nice? If so, I'm interested. I might see if I can rent one maybe. Whew, friends. This has been a really good 505 beat making session. We got this whole beat built up. You heard about how every piece was built. Man, it's really good. You got so informed with 505 technical details. It's really good. We got some nice other discussion around hardware, effects, and all sorts of other fun discussion as well. I discussed some of my history today. That's pretty good. These 505 beat making streams are meant to be as helpful as possible for you. Whether you are someone who is considering getting a 505, or you're someone who already has one and you're just learning, or you're someone who has one and you've been using it for a long time and you're just interested to see how another artist uses it. Because this is meant to be useful for you, I encourage you to let me know where you'd like more emphasis, what's something else you want to learn about, what happens if you do that, does it have this feature? Let me know that kind of stuff. I mean to be this as useful as possible for you. I hope to see you in the next live stream. I see Sonic Vibe is clarifying some of what the 5 Moons can do, and also agreeing about the idea of getting 2 different types of a device, like 2 different drum machines rather than 2 of the same drum machine. That's what pushed me to get the Hydra synth on the bottom here, which I've mostly been hanging over, not using on the 505, on the 505 beat making stream. I was thinking about also getting the machine. You seen that thing? Where it's got the finger drumming pad with, I guess, 16 4x4. I used to know a guy who used one of those. I wonder if he still has it or if he uses it. Maybe he let me get it. Maybe he let me borrow it or even just buy it off him for, less than market value. Question mark. Because finger drumming is really appealing to me. You ever seen that guy who uses his pens? What's his name? Lenstrumental, I think is what his Instagram page is. That's dope. If you've not seen his stuff, like I'm about to just enhance your day a lot. Go to the page Lenstrumental. Len, but then, as if it's instrumental. Lenstrumental. And he's just this guy who has 2 pens in his hands, and he's just like hitting the table like you might have done in the cafeteria in middle school or something. Hitting the table and all that. He's amazing at it. He does all these like extraordinarily complicated rhythms and things. He does a little bit of like I can't even do what he does, but it's mostly percussive on the table rather than vocal stuff, but occasionally he does like a clicking sound or something with his mouth. It's awesome. You're going to be very entertained and impressed. Lenstrumental. Sonic Vibe says that pen stuff is crazy. Oh, you've seen it. Yeah, he's good. I love to see how much success. He's a pretty young guy. As I record this, he's probably his like early 20s or something. I'm not sure. Maybe younger. He's a young guy and he has like all the success. It's so inspiring to see that he's like, thanks to social media, he has this ability to have this organic growth, and he's collaborating with artists. There's some like bigger name artists who even did a collaboration with him. It's really cool to see that. In any case, my friends, I do hope to see you in the next live stream. I'm going to bring up my live stream menu. We have different types of live streams that happen. Today we did the one in the upper right, 505 Beatmaking. Just making a beat, hanging out, talking about the technical details, and also going off on tangents about whatever else. We've also got the other three on the left. On the top left, you got Loops and Chill. That's where I'm improvising the beat, and I'm also doing it like it's a song. So it's got to start, middle, and finish and all that. Building the plane while I'm flying it. You've also got the bottom two in the gray box, where I bring in the Hydrosynth Explorer, play around with that too. The unspoken is just a whole bunch of improv with no talking at all. Tinkering in the studio is kind of the same, but with a lot of talking. Both of them are just making beats, however many beats we get to, hang out for an hour, hour and a half. Bring in the Hydrosynth, doing a lot of solos on that, playing with the sounds over there. You never know what kind of stream you're going to get anytime a live stream happens. If you got notifications enabled, you'll be able to join us. And until then, my friends, please have a very good rest of your day today. Please let the rest of your day today compel you forward in the ways that you need to move forward today. Please let the rest of your day today bring you all manner of healing. Please let all manner of rejuvenation come to you today. Please find the fountain of youth today. Please get all of the rest you need. Please get all of the nourishment that you need. Please find the reasons to keep going on today. Please find new reasons to wake up each day today and do your best. And I will see you in the next Reconsider It live stream.